G'day everyone, my name is Tom Craig and you're listening to my podcast, The Help Side, where we speak to some of the most recognisable names in world hockey and get an insight into who they are, what they're about, and what makes them tick. Now, if you like what you hear, feel free to follow our socials at The Help Side on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. We'd absolutely love that. Welcome back to part B of episode 13. It's the help side of Moritz Fuerste. Now, if you missed part A, go back and check it out. This will make a lot more sense. In this episode, Mo opens up about growing up as a young athlete in Germany, which included brushing shoulders with some pretty famous sports people. From there, we talk ACLs, leadership, and retirement. It's very, very good. You won't want to miss it. Rip in.
This could be the last chance for Germany. Fuerste into the back of the net. Germany have saved themselves from 2 goals down, and it's 2 goals from their captain, Moritz Fuerste, that sends the German fans into overdrive.
Germany then with a chance to take the lead at half-time. It is Fuerste from the top, goes high and beats George Pinner, beats Barry Middleton, and Germany have the lead going in here at half-time.
Can you just tell us a little bit about growing up in Germany? Because the majority of the listeners are Australia, and we don't really know how it works in Germany growing up. All we see is this highly polished team that rears its head at the right times. And I spoke a little bit to Mick McCann earlier in the series, and he kind of gave us a little a coach's perspective, I guess, of how it works in Germany. But as someone who's grown up in Hamburg and grown up in Germany and played all the way through, can you talk a little bit about what that's like in Germany?
Yeah, so I mean, Mick probably told you, and you also know it. In Germany, we have this, I think, the most exaggerated club system from a growing up perspective. So this is all about hockey clubs. So it's not connected to your school. Playing hockey has nothing to do with your school or your university or whatever. It's something completely besides that. It's the club that you choose, and that's where you grow up. So people find it hard to understand when you're not from Germany or maybe Holland, where it's a little bit similar. So my brother and I would come from school with our bikes and then just leave our school stuff at home and then go with the bike to the club every single day, 5 days a week. And we would play hockey, tennis, football there. And that was my youth between age 7 and age 15. Mm-hmm. So 3 times a week we would have proper training, and I played tennis at that time, and the other days we just we were just there with friends doing what we did, play ball for whatever. And so yeah, it's really about those clubs, and also the youth club system is so intense. It's like professional almost. The youth championships of the 13-year-olds, the German championships will have as many spectators as the male championships, if you want. So it is a completely different thing. Growing up was really only about fun for me, because we never made those championships. I never made a single championship in Germany till age 17. I didn't play the under 16 or under 18 national teams. I wasn't picked there basically just because my team was not good enough, so that I never popped up at one of those big tournaments where coaches would have seen me. So, but in the end, I think that was good, because I didn't care so much till I was 18. I wasn't following the national team too much, so I still had that fire in me when I got the first opportunity to be part of that whole world, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah. But growing up was more about fun, to be honest.
Yeah, and a lot of different sports, I gather, as well, because there aren't too many people in the world that I know who have such an extensive knowledge. For example, like my first tournament, you'd think that I would remember the semi-final result or even what even happened there, but I obviously have no idea. But you know a lot about sport, and you're a massive sports fan. So there are other sports involved in growing up as well?
Yeah, I played tennis on a professional level till I was 16. My doubles partner on the German tour was Misha Zverev, who played. I think his best position was 20 in the world a couple of years ago. His brother is number 4 in the world right now, Alexander Zverev. And they grew up next to our house, and his father was my coach, and I tried to become a famous tennis player. And Alex, so his father always told me that I would have got it, and I could have really had a chance to do it, make it. But when I was 16, it just felt wrong. I didn't want to be by myself on the tennis court every day. I was training 5 times a week and playing tournaments at the weekend, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to be with my friends. I wanted to focus there and not hanging around on the tennis court with my Russian coach, and that was just not for me. So I quit, and I obviously don't regret it at all. But sometimes I think about how it would have all come out, how would have.
Yeah, of course.
Which is a stupid question, because it's obviously something that will never be answered. But I sometimes wonder if it would have been kind of another thing or the same thing or completely different.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is very interesting. I mean, that's one of the things that I love about hockey is that you've got your teammates around. And I know we'll talk about this later, but you're also a great natural leader, and other teams really see that. So it's a totally different beast, the solo versus the team sport. Why hockey?
Oh, that's a family thing.
Yeah, okay.
So my dad played, and he basically took me to the hockey pitch when I was, I don't know, nil. And so I was standing there in the kinderwagen, and I started when I was 5. I started officially. So
okay.
that was not by choice. That was not a question.
You were forced
that was
into
ever
it.
Raised.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was just there, and I never left.
And you were able to keep up your hockey because obviously you were still quite good. I mean, no one improves that much between 16 and going to your World Cup in 2006 at 21 or whatever. How were you able to keep up your hockey and your tennis? Or was it just too hard?
I really don't know. I really cannot answer that question because I don't remember. I just remember that I was a good player on my team. One of the best players on my team growing up, but I don't know if I was good because we never played the really good teams. Really,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I remember that Oliver Kahn, for example, who I played with for a long time in the national team later. He played for Düsseldorf, which was one of the best teams in Germany at that time. He was my age, and we only played them once in a friendly match at whatever a tournament where you went camping with your team, and then so we played them there, and I remember that we played quite okay. So we only lost 3-1, and I had a good game against them, and I thought, wow, it was not like they were making a fool of us during the game. So that was the first time where I felt like, okay, maybe we can compete in a way, at least. I mean, we still lost at 3-1 very confidently, but so I don't really know if I was any good before age 18 or something. When I started practicing with the first team at my club, they just got promoted to the first division then, and so for the first time I felt like, oh, maybe Bundesliga is something I can play if I make it to the first team here. But it was really, it was strange because then I started, and that's a little bit also how I always approached everything I did in my life. So I'm not a visionist, to say the least. So I'm not someone that sees something behind 5 corners and thinks about it and is trying to find a way. I'm rather very operative. Is that a word? So,
I guess so.
So I'm trying to set a goal that I think I can reach, and then I'm giving everything I have and beyond to reach that goal. But I never had the goal to play in the national team when I was 15 or 16. But then when I was 18 and I suddenly saw that on the horizon that there would be a chance, then I gave everything I had to make that happen. And I started becoming a nerd and following every single game. And my memory works like that. I can recall every single game I played in the international hockey. I can tell you about every single game I played and what happened during those games. but not only because my memory is not good. It's just because that I set myself thinking about those games so much before them, but also after them, trying to figure out what we did good or bad, writing down stuff and figuring out what we have to do better against those players next time. I had a list about international players that I played against a lot, like Eddie Ocknen or Tönde Neuer, or so trying to figure out what they did well and what they did not so well. Try to remember that Eddie would always go with his forehand drag when he's in front of me. So in that situation, I'm not focused too much on my backhand, so that he can't get me on the wrong foot. He still got me many times on the wrong foot, but so I was trying to think about that a lot and improving there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You can feel free to send through a copy of that if you want. But it sounds interesting as well, because you're 16, right? You're pushing to be, you're a junior professional tennis player, and you're pushing to be on the circuit. And then it sounds like there's kind of this 2-year period, because I know you're a highly competitive guy, and if you're not, then I don't know, you disguise it very well. But it seems like there's this 2 kind of year period where you're not really pushing for the German national team or pursuing your hockey, and you're not pursuing tennis either. What were you focusing on in those 2 years?
Yeah, that you got me there. That's a really good question, but I think that's just my bad memory. There was a pretty smooth connection between not playing tennis anymore and then focusing on making it in hockey somehow. So there wouldn't have been 2 years, but it was probably like, so when I decided to stop with tennis, which was basically only forced by my parents or by my mom, because she said, you're too bad at school, you cannot pursue 2 sports and not doing school, so choose one. So I did, and then it took me maybe another half year until I realized that I had a shot, and it was really only because I had a shot on making the first team at UHC, at my home club, which was something I really wanted back then. And then it took another year maybe fighting for that dream, and then that came true in 2001, age 17, and I played my first game for that team. So yeah, but I was still far away from making the national team. So I played my first under 21 game late in 2003, so another 2.5 years after I made the step to the first team at UHC.
Do you think that kind of delayed, not development, but perhaps delayed recognition? Because if I think about you, I think of like a self-belief sort of thing. I would say that's one of your hallmarks. Do you think that delayed recognition added to that?
Yeah, I would try to say it more positively. For me, I wasn't sick of playing for Germany ever, or the other way around. I wasn't bored by playing for the national team. And that is probably also because I didn't have that feeling.
Gotcha.
Starting with age 15, playing for the under 16s, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, so I never got tired, and I lit that fire 2003. So when I was already 20 years old, that's when that fire lit, and I think that's the reason why I played till the end, and why I always wanted to play well for Germany, because I didn't have the opportunity to do that before. I could really appreciate that.
Yeah, gotcha.
I think sometimes, especially in Germany, I see so many players playing 50, 60, 70, maybe even more games. How many games did you play for the youth teams, under 21, 18, 16? Probably 100, right? You played many, I guess.
No idea. Not sure. We don't really tally them like the Euros do. But anyway, continue.
Okay. So they are counting that here. And there are players that played 100 games for Germany before the age of 20 and without a single senior cap. And then they end up without any senior caps. And I wonder, like, how's that even possible? I mean, if you play 100 games under 16, 18, and 21 for Germany, how come you don't make it in the top team? There must be a mistake somehow. And I think it's most of the time it's motivation. They kind of lose that fire to play for your national team because they did it 100 times when they were age 15 to 18. And that shouldn't be the right track.
Yeah. How do you sustain it? How did you sustain that fire throughout your career?
I think it's difficult, and I mean, I try to find my answer in that I didn't play under 16, under 18, and not so much under 21, because that meant that those 5 years, basically, or 4 years, that I didn't play when I was that young, yeah, I still liked playing for Germany when I was 29, 30. There are so many players in our generation that quit age 28, 29, because they were just tired and they thought about, what do I do after my career? What do I do with my life? So I played for the German national team for 13 years now. That's enough. And I think that's a shame, because many players quit on the very top of their game.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did you have periods of lacking motivation?
Not really, because I basically think that I got caught back into real life twice when I tore my ACL and PCL.
Gotcha.
So that was the time when I believe in that. I'm not superstitious, but I believe that your body tells you when you need a break, and if you don't listen, then he gets himself a break.
Yeah.
So I was playing too much hockey from 2008 to 2011. And I played every single test match. I played every single game for my club, and I played every single tournament and everything. And I didn't have a break for more than 10 days during that time. And then suddenly, after the 2011 European Cup, I got my first best player award at that tournament. And then a week after that, I went back on the pitch playing a test match against a team from Hamburg, completely stupid. And I tore my ACL. And that was really the time when for the first time, my body as well as my brain felt like, okay, this was necessary. I needed this. I needed to focus on something else now for 4 or 5 months. And I had a quite good comeback, to say the least, in 2012. So I was happy about that.
No, I thoroughly believe that as well. With the injury, was there a prevailing sense of relief when you did it, or what were the emotions that arose then?
No, I was just panicking.
Oh, really?
I tore my ACL in 2011 on the 3rd of September.
Oh, geez, so that's close. Yeah,
that was just 10
months. That's my birthday, by the way.
Anyway. Really?
Yeah. Side note.
That's a crazy incident. Yeah, that's funny. So it's your fault, obviously.
Obviously, I was praying really hard that the Kookaburras would win the 2012 Olympics.
No, so yeah, on the 3rd of September, I tore my ACL, and I had 10 months, right? But I only had 8 months, till the German team had to be nominated. And so we made the decision to not get surgery and to just work it off from, the muscles to get stronger. And that was a really, really intense time for me. That was probably the most intense time of my entire career. That was sick, because I did nothing but trying to come back for that 2012 Olympics.
So you never got surgery on your ACL?
No, I never got surgery on my ACL. It's like, I'm not a doctor. I have no idea, but they said if you were doing surgery, then you will not be able to come back to the Olympics, they said, because it's just not enough time. So I said, okay, then that was the decision. So let's go. And started working out the next day and did it for 5 months. And I played the test tournament in May in London, the pre-Olympic tournament already. And I was more than fit for that. So yeah, that was a good feeling to be back then.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be. I'm interested in this psychology degree that you did. At what stage is that something you've always been interested in, or is that something that sport kind of brought you in? Because it sounds like you're very interested in the mind side of sports and what goes on between your ears. Was that a motivation to study psychology?
Yeah, I love it. I always loved it, and I love thinking about it. Funny part about it is I don't really like it for me during sports. So I like thinking about it a lot, but I never. So we always had a psychologist with us during tournaments and also training camps. He was we found a cool way to do it, because he was just an offer for the players, so people could use him to talk to him and stuff.
Yeah,
but we didn't have those big sessions or whatever.
Yeah,
and many players used it. Which I think is really cool, but I never really wanted to use it. But I would have loved to be him myself. You know what I mean? So because I thought about it also so much, and I thought about the players and what I think, how they can improve and what they should do differently and what I should do differently. So I thought about that a lot, and studying that was just basically trying to find proof for my thoughts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I gotcha.
So I always loved reading articles or also theories about things that I thought about also a lot, and then some of them were proven and some of them were completely different. So I loved the theory behind the ideas that I had for so long about psychology in sports, which I think is on the top level. Without exaggerating, I think it's at least 50% of the deal.
Yeah.
Because the difference between you guys in an Olympic Games tournament and us is just basically not there. We could play 10 times and it would probably end 5-5.
Yeah.
So it's only about that very day and how can you like beat the other team on that very day. And that is definitely, I mean, it's not possible without your skills in the sport that you play, but when it comes to those knockout games, I think it's even more than 50%.
Yeah, I agree. Is there a reason you didn't actively seek it yourself?
I don't know. No, maybe this is also honestly a little bit because it always depends on the person. Maybe I just didn't have that connection also with the guy. Because I talked about that with many players at that time, but I didn't have a real connection there, so I didn't find it for me.
Yeah, gotcha.
To be cool.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I want to talk about winning and leadership now. I mean, we've spoken about it a fair bit, but I want to go back to it directly. And you captained your country on many occasions. You captained your country in the 2016 Rio Olympics. But what is it about the mindset of you that makes you such a good winner? Because I mean, a lot of people play this game, and a lot of people fail to have the same measure of success that you've had. And if people think about you and your captaincy and the teams that you're involved with, I mean, you're known as a winner, someone who just gets it done. What's your approach? Is that fair? That's something that you push for above all things, just winning?
Well, I'm flattered. I appreciate your thoughts. And I mean, we played together, so it feels even a little more convincing when you say that. But to be honest, that's something I never thought about so much. So I think especially in hockey, I just did. I just tried to do what I do, and I never thought so much about the theory behind it. I always thought about winning and try to find ways to win, and I had the biggest discussions with people from my past hockey career times, because I always told the guys, people were sometimes furious at me because I would scream too much in training or I was not nice or whatever, and I always felt really not understood at that time, because my goal was always to try to make the guys around me better, and as well as myself, and I wanted to make a better player out of everyone I was playing with, and using that advantage to win games as a team. And sometimes I got lost on that way because people were just mad at me, especially in club hockey more than in international hockey, and they were just like, oh, it's not fun to play with him. So I had to change a little bit on that approach. That was, by the way, also during the time 2011, 2012, when I realized that my thoughts and my approach was not taken as well as I thought it should be. And so I adopted a little bit and tried to communicate in a different way. But yeah, in the end, I felt like I had to just do what I can best in order to lead. But I'm not a big fan, by the way, of this leading from the front. So walk the talk or something, like that.
Yeah.
I think it's more about being authentic and doing what you're good at. And you know me, I was not the guy who would be at 7:50 for every 8 o'clock meeting. And I wouldn't also be the guy to, stick 100% to any game plans or not talking back to a coach or whatever. I was more always like I did what I could do best, and I tried to think about the hockey the way that I was thinking about it, and that was sometimes very controversial for coaches and other players, but well, I didn't care. So that was me. And with most of the players and coaches I worked with, that was probably in the end the formula for success, because we had differences and we had struggles and we were even mad at each other, but in the end, the tension created something good. And that's how I see it. And by the way, before you tell that story, by the way, a really good example for that is the Hockey India League, because I really think that one of my strengths is, if I am allowed to say that, is working together with people and not so much looking at where they come from or what they do or whatever, just trying to figure out the best possible connection that can make us win championships. And in the first year, everyone said it will be impossible for a team with Ashley Jackson and Mo to win a championship because they are just too much trying to focus on who is the leader in the team. And it wasn't the case at all. We found a great way to connect. And the same thing happened in the last year. I think we had many very successful players on that team as well. But I think we found a very smart structure of focusing on just being successful during that last HIL season when you joined the team. Yeah. I think that was the best example, because I don't know if you remember, but we did, and you remember probably better than I do. But it was every team session with Mark, the coach, Mark Hager, and with GT and Moose and you guys, and it was only about how can we win this and what do we have to do. That was our focus all the time. Did we even practice during the entire season? I don't even remember training once.
Seriously, I remember this one time when we were in Mumbai, and I think we had the game on Thursday and we had our last training on Wednesday morning, right? And Thursday night we obviously played. And I remember we went to the pitch for the first time, and Hagar Horry had the whiteboard and he said, this is the starting lineup for Thursday. Go have a hit on the pitch and then I'll see you then. And no joke, there was no teaming. There was absolutely nothing. And we ended up winning that game, actually. I think you scored a couple of goals. But it was just, it really was, as you say, it was crazy.
But I think it was for this team or for this squad, it was exactly the right way. So I remember he was offering goal shooting sessions from time to time. Yeah. So where guys would go who maybe didn't play so much, or the goalkeepers went, but it was for that connection, for that group, it was the perfect way to do it. Because I remember talking with all the teams that were there, they were talking to us, telling us, we did shuttles yesterday or whatever. And we were like, oh no, we had a beer and it was good.
Well, for me, it was actually almost a holiday, and I'm picking up the fact that you were kind of running the team. So maybe the fact that I only played probably like 80 or 85 minutes for the entire tournament, and that was when everyone got sick in Bhubaneswar. I think everyone had pizza and or ice cream. I think it was the ice cream or something, and everyone got sick. And that was when I played. It was Chinese. And I played 95% of my minutes for that tournament were in that game when everyone else was green. That's hilarious. Yeah. Anyway. But I remember this one time when I think it was the final. Oh no, it was the semi-final against UP. And I remember you were on the bench and I was on the bench, obviously. And I remember you were screaming at one of the Indian guys at the back. I think it was a left half or something. You probably know who it was. It was Nilan or Anand or something. And to be honest, I don't know if you knew what you were saying, because you were yelling so loudly. And just, I don't know what he'd done. But I remember I said to you, do you think that helps? And you were like, no, probably not. And then you kept yelling. You kept doing it. And I'm pretty sure the whole part of it is that there's just this force of kind of will with you as a leader. And this is something that I was able to observe a lot, is there's just kind of this force of character and this desire to win that is so infectious. So regardless of whether, if I had done the same thing, if I had screamed at him or if another person had screamed at him, I don't think it would have the same effect. But I think it is definitely that kind of force of character that worked so well with our team. Do you remember that incident or no?
No, I don't really recall that incident, but I wanna say something, because it sounds now a little bit like so everything I did was for a reason and was well thought through. And this is more wrong than anything else. So obviously I did so many mistakes, and yelling at people, as I said, or not thinking about it, being too emotional during games. I think I didn't get a single card in my entire career. That was not only because I was emotional, reacting on something which I thought wasn't fair or whatever. I made so many mistakes there. So obviously that was maybe even one of them. But in the end, also, it's true what you said. So the effect was sometimes also part of the game. So I would also sometimes scream at people only to show others. And that was maybe not fair, to pick maybe the weakest link and scream at them to show the others that they have to, move again and cannot rest. That was sometimes strategy, but in 95%, probably like the time that you just recalled, that is also just being stupid and being emotional on the pitch.
Well, you shouldn't have told me that, because now I'm gonna stop using it as a teaching point. Our hero of hockey for this week is Alex Tyrrell from Altona Hockey Club. A big thank you to Caleb Scanlon for sending this one in. I hope you enjoy your $100 voucher at Voodoo Hockey and get yourself a sweet stick. The voucher should be in your inbox. Now, Caleb writes, Alex is the current club president of Altona Hockey Club in Victoria. Side note, shout out to everyone down there. I hope you're going okay with everything going on. Hang in there. We're thinking of you. Now, Alex is a great leader for the Seagulls in what has been a pretty brutal time with the pandemic. Caleb writes that Alex puts an enormous amount of time and energy into the club, and his passion is evident for all to see. It is suspected that Alex might be the youngest hockey club president in Australia, and Alex is apparently still the fittest at the club. Brilliant effort, mate. That's a lot. Does this make him possibly the fittest club president as well? We don't know. We do know that there is a club president at the Ride Hockey Club named Glenn Castenson, who does run the 1K time trial with the first grade squad. Who knows? Maybe we can organise a battle of the fittest club presidents when this is all over. Probably not. I doubt it, but it'd be quite the race. Thanks, Caleb. Well done, Alex. You're our Voodoo hero of hockey for the week, and you're in the running to win a Voodoo prize pack valued at up to 600 Aussie dollars. Thanks for everything you do for the sport in a very difficult time, mate. You're a legend. Now, anyone else with someone who deserves some recognition, please don't hesitate to get in touch and get your hero in the running to win the Voodoo prize pack. Plus, just for nominating, you'll instantly get a $100 voucher to be spent on a fresh Voodoo hockey stick. Check out our socials for details. This will probably close in September. So if you do have someone in mind, don't hesitate. Get their name in and we'll get in touch. Now, back to Mo. Have you seen The Last Dance?
Yeah, sure.
So I mean, you talking about your own mantra around 2011 and 2012, talking about just that will to win and pushing everyone around you to be their best so that your team can perform the best. That sounds a lot like the way Michael Jordan approached his Bulls, and he was kind of it was a little bit kind of out. I guess he wasn't universally liked, I guess. But the thing that you said is getting to know that not everyone's going to respond the same to the same treatment. And you spoke about the learnings that you had in that space. Can you talk about things that changed after you kind of discovered that for yourself?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I had to learn was that it's not about being globally liked, but rather to being respected. Mm-hmm. And I never cared so much about being liked. I just cared about being respected. I always wanted to get that feeling from everyone I played against. And if I wasn't respected, that was a big confidence drop for me, because it showed me that I did something wrong. And in 2011, I had the feeling that, especially in my own team, people lost the kind of respect, not because I played bad, it was the other way around, just basically because of the way I communicated with them. So after that, I was trying to go a lot more into personal conversations and talking directly with players after games, trying to get what they thought about it, and giving feedback there as well. And I tried to give more feedback next to the pitch than only on the pitch when it was emotional. And I think that led to the fact that people took criticism and feedback on the pitch less as an offensive act after that, because I would still talk to them before and after the game saying, look, here's the thing, and I don't like this and that, and I would like you to do this and that. And if then they didn't do it during the game, then I would say, come on, we talked about this, and then that was fine. So I think that was the biggest change, that I started communicating a lot more also apart from the pitch. And those individual conversations led to the fact that I understood what the people were thinking more. So when I would scream at someone before that, I would just scream at them and not knowing what's going on in his life at all. And now I knew, I was talking to him before, he would tell me, I'm struggling so much right now because I don't know why, but my 3D game's not working. I don't know why. So I could push him during the game saying, come on, believe in yourself, you can do this. And if he did a good 3D, something good, a 3D skill during that game, I would scream at him saying, come on, great, that was amazing. Look, I knew you can do it. And before that, I wouldn't have told him that because it wasn't a very important scene. But now I knew that this was a struggle for that player. So I could, react on it and give him that, support him in that confidence there. And this is the positive effect, but also the other way around. So it helped me being more individual, having a more individual approach, communicating with the team.
That's really interesting. That's a good point. I like that. Talking about your personal game now, we've spoken about leadership and we've spoken about your position within a team. A few points I want to cover on you as a player yourself. One is this self-belief and confidence piece. Because as you can tell, like sometimes you would know as many as others, you can pick up when someone's feeling confident and comfortable in their own ability. And sometimes guys just, some players can be all over the place on a certain day. But it appears that you're always confident and you always had this level of self-belief. Where does that come from and how did you maintain that? If that's how you felt.
Yeah, you will laugh. You will think this is funny because I never thought that I was a really good hockey player. So I really I had sometimes a nightmare that was a little bit like, I could explain it in a way that I always had the feeling that one day people will realize that I'm a fraud and that I'm not a really good hockey player. So that was like in a movie or whatever. But I had between maybe like 2010 and 2013, 14, 15. So during those years, I had the self-confidence that I knew, this is not knowing, but from my self-confidence perspective, I knew if I have a ball in midfield, no one can take it from me. Because I just knew what to do. How to shield it with my body, how to do the right movements at that time, and what I needed to do and you will not find many scenes of me dribbling past players or doing the greatest drags, skill, tricks, whatever. But I knew how to keep the ball, and I had a quite good vision of the game, so I could get a free hit and then make a good pass, or maybe even using back at that time, not later, using the speed to go around players. But you wouldn't find me in 1-against-3 situations where I dribbled my way past a number of players. So, and I discovered that my strength was rather the finding gaps in defenses and setting up our forwards in the best way and feeding them with balls that many other players couldn't. And I realized this is my strength. So strengthen your strength and focus on that. And that's why I always had this feeling like there are so many better hockey players from an individual technical perspective in the world, and also in my team. But if you know, and know obviously in quote marks, if you know that no one can take the ball from you, then this is a very strong that's a very strong asset.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that was basically everything about my confidence, that I knew it is difficult to get the ball when I have it, and yeah, just go from there. So that's what I said when I said earlier about the Belgium defense, or your good defense, which I totally believe. But I think that was probably my biggest strength, that I would have been able to find solutions against that when I had the ball. And which is, by the way, a fact, because we didn't lose to Belgium in a single very important international game throughout my career. I was always very proud of that fact, because they got so much better over the years, and but we always found a way through their defense.
Yeah.
And that was basically also because I was a player who was looking for those solutions. And by the way, so was Toby Hauke, who was very similar from his approach of style. And yeah, with us in midfield, only basically looking for passes to set up our forwards against those defenses, was one of the most important parts of our game in that time. So yeah, my self-confidence basically just rose from the fact that I knew it was hard to get the ball from me, and then that's my strength.
A lot of great players talk about trusting in their preparation as well as being an anchor for their self-confidence. Sounds like you and Toby Hauke shared a pretty good relationship, and I know that you spoke about your preparation and watching a lot of video, I can imagine. Do you think a lot of that confidence came from before the game as well? Did you watch a lot of video with Toby or by yourself?
Yeah, I most definitely didn't watch as many videos as Toby, but because if I'm a hockey nerd, then he is the godfather.
Oh, really?
Of hockey nerds. Yeah, but we watched a lot of video. Yes, we did a lot of preparations, and we would talk a lot about hockey. Toby and I would and it's funny because we next to the pitch, we never connected in a way that people would think. But on the pitch, it was just it just worked out pretty well. And by the way, also because we were confronting each other and challenging each other all the time, and there was always this running gag in the German team that it's about who's the biggest rooster in the handshake. That's how you say it. Is the German translation. It was always about, people were always making fun of, this game Mo was better, so it's 1-0 for Mo. Or next game, now Toby is up 2-1. So it was, and this challenge made us better.
Yeah,
I really believe so.
That's cool. You talk about the midfield, but I know that you spent a bit of time, especially, for example, in Champions Trophy, you played free defender, and a lot of the time, especially when I started playing, initially I didn't even realize that you'd played in the midfield for the majority of your career. How did that self-confidence piece build into playing at the back, where you don't necessarily have the ball in the midfield to play to that strength?
Well, maybe you will see that when you get older, but that's the normal way. You move back. You move back a little. Well, look, I think what I just said about my strength is something that is very helpful in that build-up position. And with the years, and I turned 30 in 2014. So the last 2 or 3 years of my career, it was a little bit like it was easier to pursue that strength of mine with the ball, finding solutions and passes without the struggle of putting myself into a free position in the first place, if you know what I mean. So now I had the opportunity to, have the field in front of me, and being one of the only players on the pitch with eyes on the entire pitch, and looking in the playing direction, which is something that obviously midfielders and forwards always have to fight for to be able to look to the other goal. And I think that was why we chose to do it. So we have that strength in the build-up on our side there, and Yeah, it worked quite good. I like that. I like the new challenge. I think it was also a confidence boost for me that it worked quite well in Champions Trophy in 2014. So that I felt like I'm defining my career new, and I'm thinking about completely new things suddenly. And I never thought about defending until 2014, and suddenly that was the most part I thought about during the entire day. So yeah, I think it gave me a new challenge, and I love that. I really like that.
That's interesting. I've only got a couple more things because I know you've been pretty generous with your time. The one thing I want to talk about is Rio 2016, two pieces. The first bit is obviously that quarterfinal against New Zealand, and the second one is the semi-final being your last international game, by my understanding. And the shots of you sitting on the backboard. And I know that you posted something recently of the Argentinian coach running the length of the field to come and embrace you on the backboard as you sat there, looking pretty disappointed and pretty shattered. And we'll get to that. But for now, let's talk about that New Zealand game and the last 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, well, look, the New Zealand game, I mean, that's obviously crazy hockey history, and no one could have thought that something like that would happen. Being 2-0 down with 4 minutes to go. To say, I mean, this would be a very long story now. I'm trying to cut it short as so I scored this 2-1, the corner through the legs, which was not by surprise, because their goalkeeper during that game, he was completely in my head. He was just changing the sides that he would step to. So everything we talked about before about my corner, he basically, they had a solution because they were just speculating. They let two runners, this classical suicide runners, run from one side, and then the goalkeeper would just stand next to the post on the other side, and they swapped. So the first two corners, I just basically flicked into his shin pads. And then I wasn't sure what I should do, so I made a couple of mistakes. And 6 corners later, it was 2-0 for them. So with that corner, I finally started thinking about it, and I flicked the ball like 80 centimeters next to the post, because I was sure that then I could get him on the way to the post. So not flicking into his pads, and it worked. So that was exactly what I wanted, to put it through his legs there. And then on the last corner, 40 seconds before the end, we thought about, and I was talking to it with Toby. We said, okay, come on. He's always standing on one post. So you just have to look from where the runners are coming, and you don't even have to beat the goalkeeper. You just have to beat the runners, because then the goalkeeper is not in that corner for sure. And so if you got, or everyone who's listening, if you are looking at that next time, then you will see that I pull it, or I drag it quite far to the right, a lot further than I usually do, to get around the first runner, and then I just put it medium height, medium hard, just in the middle of the goal, basically. So fortunately, that was a really good thought the two of us had before that corner, to beat them there. And then, I mean, the last seconds, that's just ridiculous. I played it unbelievably stupid pass from the back into the forehand.
That was you,
of Hugo English. Yeah, that was my pass.
Crazy.
Good
setup.
I tried to pass the ball to Martin Zwicker, and he thought that I would just flick it. So he turned around his left shoulder, and that was the second I passed the ball to him. So it was unbelievable. And so Toby got the ball back by putting his backhand down, and that was a really bad pass. And to be honest, I mean, people in Australia might maybe laugh about it. I'd said this once in a more New Zealandish surroundings, and they were pretty pissed. But really, it was just unbelievable bad defending. They had 6 guys in the back. They had 6 guys running backwards, and they were all staring at the ball. No one took out Florian on the long post, and Florian was sprinting from our own circle, and there were 5 guys sprinting next to him, and no one cared about him. They were all 6 people were looking at the ball with a couple of seconds left. If someone would have tackled him before the 25, that's a yellow card, but the game is over, or whatever. I mean, and I mean, this is luck. This is believing in yourself, of course, but I don't want to make more out of it as it already is. It is an incredible, magical Olympic moment in nowadays German sport history. But unfortunately, not with a big happy end, but with at least on that day a pretty cool happy end.
For sure. Bit of panic. It seemed like there was just kind of panic stations there for the Kiwis at the back. And your final 100%. Game. It was your last game, yeah?
No, it wasn't.
The semi. Obviously the bronze medal match. Sorry, my bad. But that backboard picture. Can you just talk to us about what was going on in your mind as you sat on the backboard?
I mean, I was just devastated. We were 5-0 down after, I don't know, 45 minutes or something. I think we scored 2 more goals, but I'm not even sure about that. And I was just waiting for the final whistle and for this to be over. And then it was very difficult there, because you remember we had those rules there that you could only you couldn't leave the pitch. You had to go through mixed zone first, and then this and that, and don't ask me. So you could basically not hide. You were stuck there. So I went to that goal, and I didn't even think about it. I sat there. I wasn't even crying. I was just, my head was filled with thoughts, and I don't know. I was just, everything was going through my mind, and then Carlos, who happened to be a big supporter of myself, to say the least. I would go as far as saying he was probably my biggest fan throughout my entire career. He would text me a lot after games. He would, even after when we played them and we won, he would come to me and say, "Wow, I'm such a big fan." And his children, I took probably like 100 pictures with his children throughout my career. So I really appreciate that moment when he just bet me in his biggest success of his coaching life, and he chose not celebrating with his team in the changing rooms, but running to me, and he didn't even say anything, but he was congratulating me to my career, and he was not going like, "I'm sorry" or something. He was just saying, "Wow, man, as soon as you can, put your head up and think about what you achieved." And I was really appreciative of that moment, and I wished him well for the final. And I like that, because I think it's really easy it's pretty easy to lose games and to not lose your head and still shake hands with the opponents. But it's at least as important, and that was I was tweeting about the other day, being a good winner, winning games, and then still being able to be nice about it, and be humble, and taking it not for granted what you just achieved.
Of course. So that was it. You went on to win the bronze medal, which is 3 medals from 3 Olympics, which is just a spectacular record. And into retirement. And you've got a few things that are going on. There's the HYROX World Championship of Fitness, which you're a founding partner of, and also you do a lot of podcasting and these sorts of things. How have you found retirement, and those? What are they? First of all, what are they, and how have you found them compared to international hockey?
Well, it's a completely different thing. For me, it was really important. It took me probably a year or something, or 1.5, to really find to lit another fire. Because for me, that is always my expression that I say, you need to have a fire in you to get up in the morning and do some, and stand up and know what you want to do, and do something that you love. And I did that for 20 years. I got up in the morning and I knew exactly what I loved and what I wanted to do. So I did some stuff. I was part of a quite big TV show in Germany after my career, and did that. So that was quite interesting to experience that kind of thing. And then a year later, I founded with 2 partners this HYROX, and I can just, because we will also come to Australia soon, and this is basically also made for the Aussies. It's a fitness competition that consists of running 8 times 1 kilometer and 8 different workouts. but it's too complicated now. You can check out on hyrox.com. And it's basically a sport of fitness. So something CrossFit would be for the overall experts, the top 50 in the world, where you have to do handstand push-ups and stuff that only GT and some others can, but definitely not everybody. And in our competition, everybody can do it, but the best will need 55 minutes and the worst will need 4 hours. So it's like a competition, like a triathlon or a marathon or something like that is time tracked and stopped, but only with fitness workouts like pushing a sled or pulling a sled and then running. So the best mixture of endurance training and CrossFit or functional fitness training. And we founded this company 3 years ago. We are having 35 events now in 8 different countries. Have a big office in America and in Germany. So from America, we're leading the whole American market, and I'm head of the European market. So my partner is going to the US and doing it from there. Yeah, and I lit my fire there. I'm getting up in the morning, now driving to the office, being a pretty regular office guy, and just love it. We have 25 people working in our European office now, and yeah, this is a new part of leadership, a new part of bringing a team together and working with that. And I'm trying to take as much as I can from my times in hockey to be as good as I possibly can.
And I've seen videos of Hyrox and what it's like, and I have to say the workouts look ridiculous. Not only that, but it seems like it's a very well-oiled machine, and it looks like a lot of fun as well. So I'm excited for that to get to Australia.
On Sunday, so we just started, due to Corona times, we just started a virtual competition 5 weeks ago, and on Sunday there will be the live show of the grand final of that virtual competition. We had 7,000 participants from all over the world, and there's an Australian in the final. So this is quite interesting that we're talking now.
There you go.
Because for whatever reason, someone from Australia signed up and finished second in the overall competition. So he's in the big final on Sunday. Yeah.
How many in the final?
Interesting. And it's 4.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to be a live competition that is streamed, split screen. Those 4 are doing the same workout at the same time.
All right.
Christopher Woolley is doing it from Australia, and then we have 2 guys from America and 1 from Germany.
That's crazy.
So it's going to be pretty epic.
That'll be awesome. Finally, at the end of every podcast, we do a couple of quick questions just to wrap things up.
Okay.
The first one is, who's the best player you've ever played with? And I have a suspicion it's going to be Christopher Zeller, but we'll see.
Yeah, it is Christopher Zeller. I have to say that. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. And we usually divulge a little bit more information, but to be fair, you've spoken a fair bit about Christopher recently, so we'll skip that. Best player you've ever played against, and why?
The best player I ever played against is I would probably, let me think 1 second. There are many, but I want to get because I could also say Christopher Zeller because I played a lot against him in club hockey, but that's not what I mean. So from a personal perspective, I would go with a defender, and I would say it's Mark Knowles.
Okay. Why?
And yeah, because so Knowlesy had this incomparable vision of the game. So when you were playing against him, it wasn't enough to focus on how to get past him. It was also about, if he gets the ball from you, he could really hurt you very quickly with either a pass or even a dribbling and going forward with the ball and then entering our 25 and finding a pass there. So that was, when you played against him, you had to think about that, and that really affected the decision making. So when I was standing in front of Nosy, I wouldn't try things I would try against someone else, because you fear too much that not only you lose the ball, but that could really hurt you in the process. So yeah, that was something very special about him. You know, there are so many defenders that are only being there to defend, and then you can try whatever you want, because if you lose the ball, you know, I'm always back there and I will always find my way back into the situation. But with Nosy, you were always struggling.
Agreed. And it might interest you to know that a few people who I've interviewed previously on the show have said you were the best player they've ever played against. Several of them, actually.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
There you go.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And they said, well, you can go and have a listen. Final question. let's pretend that someone has just been elevated to captain of their national team, and you've got to give them one piece of advice for embarking on their new role as the leader of that team. What would it be?
Oh, that's an easy question. It's not about you. It's about the team, and it's not about that role. It's about what you do with it. And so make sure you understand your team. Make sure your team understands your approach, what you want to do, how you want to lead that team, and never stop talking.
Brilliant. I'll take that. I know you've got a couple of girls who require your attention, a couple of young kids. So I'll let you go. Thank you so much for giving up your time and speaking to me. This has been absolutely brilliant. I've got a lot out of it. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks. No worries. And I really liked it too. It's like sitting together at a campfire talking about old times. I really like that. I have to do this more.
That's it for another episode of The Help Side. Special thanks to my production team of David Moore and Tim Collier, plus countless others working behind the scenes to get this to you. You're the real MVPs. Again, if you're liking the show, please like, subscribe, you know the drill, and get in touch with us via our socials. We would love to hear from you. Anyway, that's all, folks. See you next week.